The fertilizer market faces a wave of shifting influences, from US subsidy uncertainty to emerging Russia-Ukraine peace talks and falling European gas prices. Each factor has the potential to disrupt supply, spark demand waves, or reshape global nitrogen flows in the months ahead. To talk us through this, I'm joined by Vice President of Fertilizer, Josh Linville. Thank you for joining us, Josh.
Absolutely.
So US farmers are watching the Trump administration for any progress on subsidy payments. Fill us in on what's happening there.
Yeah, we finally got the government open, and now all the farmers are sitting there saying, "Where's my money that I was promised?" Subsidy payments was a big talking point while the government was shut down, and I know there's a lot of back and forth in the marketplace. Some people saying that's not free market, that shouldn't be done. The market should just be left to its own devices. Other people are sitting there saying the inputs are incredibly high, the grain prices are incredibly low. We can't survive like this. And personally speaking, I'm much more of a free market type person. But this hasn't been free market. A lot of the issues the farmers are going through today are due to a lot of the economic wars the US government has been waging against the world. That means higher inputs, that means lower output prices. So if there's ever a time that they need help, this is it. And so now it becomes timing. Everybody's sitting there watching the government trying to figure out, well, how much money total is going to be spent. How are those dollars going to be distributed? And more importantly, when are those dollars going to be sent out to the farmers who are desperately needing it? The fertilizer market is watching very, very closely. Now, this is my own personal opinion, but I think one of the first things that the money is going to be spent on is probably debt payments, right? You've got to take care of old debts. But as soon as that gets done, I think fertilizer is probably number two in the slot. You could say equipment, but then again, a lot of people have got new equipment out there and they are really pushing back on the newer technology on the higher prices. Seed and chemical, typically those prices aren't incredibly volatile, so you can hold off a little bit there. So fertilizer very well could be a big receiver. It's important to note, if a lot of those dollars do flow to the fertilizer market, it doesn't change anything for our S&D outlook for our forecast. But if we have a massive wave of demand that hits the marketplace, I don't have to tell the audience what happens there. Fertilizer prices probably start to rally as a result of that. We've seen that in the past, and we'll probably see that again in the future. So that is going to be something to keep a very, very close eye on. It does not change the structure of the marketplace, but you bring all that demand into a short period right now, that changes the outlook of the marketplace for the short term.
And geopolitics are very much in focus as Russia-Ukraine peace talks are picking up. What could peace potentially mean for fertilizers?
Yeah, and it's going to depend on what products we're talking about. And I will say, right before we jumped on, I was looking at the news, and it looks like Ukraine has agreed to all but some of the minor details. That peace plan, of course, has to be accepted by Russia as well, right? It's not just going to be a one side says, okay, we're done, and the whole thing is over. Well, let's assume we get through Thanksgiving and we do find peace. Both sides agree, the fighting stops. When I look at the urea market, this is actually something where it could hurt supplies a little bit. Where I think one of the biggest gainers could be is UAN. Russia has lost a lot of the world demand locations in terms of Australia shutting them out, Canada shutting them out, most of Europe shutting them out, and their UAN production rates have had to fall. If part of the peace plan is Russia demanding world relations return, we could see a situation where they can start ramping up UAN production. We could start seeing them ramp up UAN exports, which helps global supplies. But I think that comes at the expense of the urea market. Those numbers start to fall a little bit. So that's the urea UAN differential. Anhydrous, they're normally the world's largest exporter. We think they could start to return. They've got their facilities in Uzluga and Taman. I think both of those facilities are ready to roll as soon as there's peace. So maybe they start to resume their mantle of the top dog. Phosphate, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of difference, nor do I think there's that much on the potash. So we are really, really watching the nitrogen markets because that's where we think the biggest changes will be if there is peace.
Watch this space, indeed. And European Dutch TTF gas values are falling back to the $9 to $10 MMBTU range. Could this bring their 25% offline nitrogen production back?
Possibly. We've got a situation right now where obviously global nitrogen prices are incredibly high. You talk to any farmer in the world that is seeing global volatility, and they're going to tell you the price is very, very high. A lot of that comes back to Europe. And this goes back into this Russia-Ukraine peace deal. Europe's production has been at about 75% of capacity because of the high input price. Those facilities just cannot make money, so they had to shut down. Now, as we understand it, those plants have continued to be maintained. They have continued to be worked on. So if the conditions are right, they could start up very quickly, or we hope that that's the case. Well, let's say there's peace between Russia and Ukraine. One of the things we're watching very, very closely after that happens is, will Europe let gas flows go back to Europe? And people might say, oh, they can't do that. Nord Stream pipelines were attacked underwater. And you're right. 3 of them were damaged, but we believe the 4th one continues to be operational, able to be, flow product as soon as they turn the spigot on. So if they find peace, and that's part of the peace deal, we could see gas flow back to Europe, very cheap gas, bring that market down. And in the face of a very high priced nitrogen market in the world, maybe that production comes back online. That would be a huge win. That would be a major, major bearish factor that we've been watching for quite a while now. So very important to see how the next few weeks play out.
Well, thank you very much for your insights once again, Josh. Plenty to be watching out for.
Thank you.
For more videos like this, please do like and subscribe.